Hello and welcome back to a Live Tech Sarah production. So I hate when people say like, oh, everybody always asks me about my skincare, so I'm gonna do this on it, a video, a podcast, whatever. But I actually get this question like 452 times a day, so I figured I would actually give the answer this way. And I actually told a couple of people like, hey, I'm not actually gonna answer you via DM or whatever. I'm gonna do an entire podcast on it. And that is how to start a podcast. So obviously, clearly here, I have my own podcast. I have my own equipment. I've been doing this for over a year now. It's been absolutely amazing and probably the coolest thing, the coolest like passion project I've ever done. But I really wanna start with basically the steps. I guess I have 7 bullet points on like steps, things you have to do, things you have to think about, okay? So the first one is getting super clear on your intentions. Now, your intentions can be to help people, your intentions can be to entertain people, and of course your intentions can be to make money. If this is the first thing that you're doing, if you're like putting all your eggs in one basket and you're trying to make something successful, I think you really need to identify why you're starting this podcast. Like, making money isn't always the best way to approach something like this. Like, I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I'm just saying that maybe the goal itself in starting the podcast should be to help people, should be to entertain people, should be for your own entertainment, like inviting guests on the show or your friends or whatever, and just having a good time. I think those are the true intentions of starting a podcast. And obviously an end goal can be to make money. You can have an end goal of, okay, this is something that I want to be a producing income. An income producing skill, whatever it is, right? So figure out what your intention is and really get clear on what you're trying to deliver to the audience that is listening, because at the end of the day, you have to add value. And it doesn't really matter what type of value you want to add, just be aware of what you're putting out there and how you really want it to affect people. Number 2, we're getting right into it. This is how to how to literally start a whole podcast. I'm gonna put my hair up because goddamn, this shit is in my way. Number 2 is to find a podcast streaming or podcast hosting platform. And I mean, I use Podbean. There's a few out there. I'm not gonna name names, but wow, I look like I don't even know. What the heck is like a old, yikes. Anyways, I have a dress on and I just put my hair up and I feel like I look like a farmer or something. I don't know. Anyways, all not important, but I use Podbean. There's some out there that are free. This one's a paid service. It's really, really cheap. Like, don't even worry about it. It's really cheap. I really like the interface. I really like the platform. Feel free to do your own research. This will take 15 minutes. If it's taking you longer than 15 minutes to do the research on the podcast hosting platform, you are reading way too into it and you are self-sabotaging. I can promise you this. It takes you literally 15 minutes. But with that being said, there's some out there that are free and they have a lot of like rights to your content and a lot of weird laws and rules and all that stuff. So I picked Podbean, you pick whatever you want, go with that. Number 3, pick your name, the title of the podcast, pick your photo, which has to be 1400 by 1400 pixels. If you're struggling with that, just use Fiverr. It's literally fiverr.com and you can just find somebody that can like make the dimensions work, whatnot. And then of course, just coming up with like your little description of what it is you do. Once again, super simple, shouldn't take a lot of time. If you have like that creative brain, spit some ideas off of people, collab, and then come back, have a deadline for that being done. Because at the end of the day, this whole podcasting thing, it's super easy to start. And if you're not starting, it's really just on you. This stuff literally can just all happen in a matter of days. All right, so number 4, this is a key piece that I haven't really heard talked about as much, but you have to apply to be on iTunes. Everything else is kind of just like you just sign in and then it just works. When it comes to iTunes and the actual podcast app itself, you have to apply. So that's why I say the 1400 by 1400 pixels. The only reason you need that is because that's iTunes requirements or Apple's requirements, whatever it is. Do that a few days before. They say it can take like, I don't know, up to like 22 days or something weird like that. But I had to do mine twice and both times it was I would say within 2 days, it ended up registering and approving. In order to figure out how to do this, just Google it. It will literally just type in on Google, podcast apply iTunes or Apple podcast application, whatever. And it will bring you to something where you sign into an iCloud or something along those lines. And you basically just put in your RSS feed, RSS number. And like I said, it just has to pass all the guidelines, all that stuff, and you're good. Also, if you're gonna swear or talk explicit content, I think there's something that you still have to check a box or whatever, just do that. Because if not, then they can flag it or something can happen. I don't know, that's what I was told at the beginning, and I did that. Number 5. This one is actually something that I personally did, and now I tell everyone to do, is record a 2-minute intro. Say, hi, you know, for example, I did, hey, my name is Liv Tech Sarah, and I'm the host of a Liv Tech Sarah production. We are going to be talking all things X, Y, and Z. There's gonna be episodes this many times a week, whatever, right? Whatever your little spiel is, do that. The reason I say do that is 1, it's gonna get you comfortable speaking. 2, it's gonna get you comfortable on the platform itself. 3, it's going to be up there and you're gonna have experience launching it on any of the platforms. That way you can kind of weed out any bugs. 4, it's going to allow your subscribers to actually subscribe to the podcast and be excited about it. So instead of it's a weird thing, but just I noticed the way that people's brain works around it is, oh, so-and-so starting a podcast, I'm gonna be interested in that. They put out this little episode and that's what they said. It just subscribe, listen to that first thing. It's an introduction, thank you for coming, whatever. That way people subscribe. Instead of just putting out your first episode and you know, it's obviously like the title, about the topic, whatever. And people can say, oh, I'm interested in that, or oh, I'm not. Instead, they're just getting that first episode and they're saying, hey, sure, I'll go subscribe, I'll go like support, whatever I can do. So do that little 2-minute intro and post that and then have a game plan for how many episodes you're gonna do and when you're gonna do them. Which brings me into number 6. Release content consistently. Come up with some schedule, whatever that is, whether it's once a week, whether it's once a month, whether it's once every day, which is what we're doing right now. We're doing every single day, Monday through Friday, for the rest of the quarantine. So who the fuck knows when this shit's gonna end. But be consistent, have some level of consistency, whether it's solo episodes or interviews or whatever. I got a lot of advice to stack like 4 episodes in the tank. And while I believe that that's important, don't get me wrong, it's great to have some stuff ready to go always. If you're going to be uploading stuff consistently, you shouldn't just batch everything at one time and then not do anything for like a month. It kind of defeats the purpose of you being consistent on your own. If it works for you, it works for you. I don't care. Whatever works for you works for me. But really get an idea of how much you can commit to, and don't just spend like a month of your time batching all this content and then you spitfire it out within the first 2 weeks and you're like, holy shit, I can't keep up with that. I don't know what to do. I'm overwhelmed. So come up with a game plan and obviously have stuff stashed. That way, if something comes up, whatever, it's easy to just kind of supplement that in when you need it. The last and final piece that I'm talking about is the actual equipment. Now, this is where everybody kind of gets caught up, and it's the stupidest shit to me because it's really just your mindset. It has nothing to do with it's basically the same thing as if it's taking you longer than 50 minutes to find the platform and it's taking you more than an hour to come up with the name and the description and the photo and all that stuff. It's really just in between your ears that's the problem. Like, it's in your head. It's not a real problem. Like, starting the actual podcast is not hard. So like I said, this should take you a couple days. You know, you have 2 days for the Apple stuff, maybe 2 days for Amazon to deliver whatever supplies you need. You go out and buy them at Best Buy, whatever the case may be. But the equipment itself is super fucking easy. A lot of people have Macs. If you don't, you'll have to kind of just tweak this a little bit. We're gonna do it in 3 levels. If you're a super newbie, if you're a beginner, and if you're super advanced. And this is like, I also want to add, if you're super advanced, you either have the money to drop on all the podcast equipment or you plan to make money quickly throughout this process and it's an investment. I tell everyone that's just beginning, start at the newbie beginner stage and then just go from there. That's what I did. So the newbie this is what I didn't do. I probably started like beginner, halfway investing. The newbie stage is GarageBand. You can literally record everything from your computer. No equipment. Second stage, beginner. This is where you get a beginner intro level mic. Super simple, you can find it on Amazon. I'll probably link below the ones that I started. They were fine, no problems. And then as you get better, as you invest in this, then you go advanced. When I went advanced the first time, I bought a Yeti mic, and then after that, I bought these mics. Hopefully that didn't come off too weird on the podcast. But I just basically showed the YouTube people the mic that I use. And these are called Blue by Yeti. Excellent, wonderful. I love them. And that's it. That's literally it. That is how you start a podcast. And I know like everybody thinks it's more complicated than it is, but this is a 10-minute video start to finish of everything that you need to know. Everything else is cake, everything else is gravy, everything else is just easy. Figure it out. This is the basics. This is exactly what you need from step 1 to step 7 to launching a podcast. And that's gonna be it for this episode. If you guys have any questions, comment it below, reach out to me. You guys know I'm always here to answer. I will be sending this personally to quite a few people because, like I said, this is literally the most common question I get asked all of the time. So thank you guys for listening. If you haven't tuned in, check out the daily episodes. We're literally releasing them every single day. And not all of them are on YouTube, but we're definitely doing at least one a week on YouTube, maybe 2, maybe 3. Who knows? We'll see how this goes. But check it out on iTunes, on Spotify, on all major podcast streaming services. That's it. Thank you guys for watching. I will talk to you in the next video and the next podcast.